Welcome back to West Texas View.
Welcome back to the West Texas View. Carl Rippey is our favorite weatherman here at Channel 9, and he has given us some really good information over the last few months about some of the things that we need to know and be aware of for our own safety and the safety of our families. And so I asked him to come and talk about fire weather watch because this is the time of the year when it's really dangerous with this drought that we've been having and with all of the conditions just right this time of the year. So talk to us, Carl, about the warning system that's set into place.
All right. We have kind of some designations. The first one is our fire weather watch, and that's a yellow flag. And we'll be able to see that in our graphics if we can scroll from this picture that's behind us now, which is a fire. Okay. Now this is what we show on air. You can see that this is actually a red flag warning. We've reached a critical fire danger, and that is across the area. And right there you can see that it's over in far west Texas, up there in the Guadalupe National Park. But that doesn't mean that the rest of Texas actually is out of fire danger. It just means that these criteria have been met, and that means the humidity level, the amount of wind that is in place, and the amount of fuel. The system itself, it looks like this. As we look at our next graphic, I'll try to bring it up, and I'm trying to scroll to it right now. I can hear it clicking. I hear it, there it goes. I'm sitting clear across the studio, so it's coming up now. We have this first one is just a fire weather watch. It's a yellow flag, and you'll see this, and this is just kind of like a yellow light if you're out driving. You know, it's kind of a cautionary step. This is when things are starting to come into place that we see that it'll be imminent to get to a red flag warning. And the red flag warning, of course, is very much a scenario that we need to pay attention to, because we will have critical fire weather at that point. And that means that if a wildfire were to get started, there's enough wind behind it that it is just going to be very hard to keep in control, and that is going to lead to a widespread fire that is going to damage a lot of property. And what we want, the reason we broadcast this is so that we have an idea of the areas that are at that critical limit, where the winds are high and the humidity is low and there's a lot of fuel to be burned, which is the case for us right now in West Texas and southeastern New Mexico. So we have a lot of fuel out there that is ready just to catch on fire and just really go crazy.
And one of the things that I am always amazed at is that more of our fires start not because of arsonists, but because of our carelessness.
Right.
And so that's what we've got to really be aware of, is how easy it is for us to cause something that will get out of hand in a hurry.
It is, and there's a lot of things like chains. If you're pulling a trailer, your safety chains sometimes will drag, and those links will give off sparks. Sometimes those chains will come clear off, and that red hot link will go off into the brush, and then the fire started. Cigarettes will start a fire. A cigar will for sure start a fire. You know, a blowout on a vehicle, that creates a lot of heat, and then that rim is going out, and so, you know, there's things like that. Of course, there's lightning that causes fires, and again, with this system in place, we know where the wildfire is going to be, and that brings everyone's attention to that area. So it's kind of a preparedness thing as well.
It's a mental attitude about being really careful and being aware, and respecting the danger. That's something that I think a lot of people will go to a fire rather than go away from a fire.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways that you can handle being in a fire, and one of them is to exit the area, because not only do you have that fire danger, but you also have the smoke inhalation, and you can become asphyxiated very quickly with the lack of oxygen in the air, because the fire itself is pulling all of that oxygen out of the air, and that will make a vehicle so that it won't run, because it's pulled so much of the oxygen out of the air that the fire equipment can't operate. So they bring in air support, and it's just something that we want to make sure everyone knows, because the more preventative that we are, the less reaction we have to put into it later, and it just makes for a safer fire year because it is imminent. We have a lot of dry fuel out there. It has frozen, it's grown, and it's thick, and it's just really ready to go. So
be kindling wood.
Yeah.
And so what we want to say is watch for those yellow flags and red flags in the warnings on your news or on your weather, because this is the time of the year you're going to see it. And so that's your lesson for today. And except now we want to change directions and go another direction. Always in the beginning of a new year, I love to talk to people about how they meet change, how they change themselves, their lifestyles, what kind of resolutions they like to do for the new year. And so I asked Carl, after he got through talking about the weather, for him to tell us a little bit about how he meets change. And I happen to know that you have had made some major changes in your life, and you have been a real risk taker. And how did you get that personality?
Well, you know, I have my mother to thank a lot for that, and of course my father as well. As far as risk taking, you know, we are created to achieve, and we're created to improve.
Yes, yes.
And you know, that means that we're going to have to reach for things that are kind of a stretch for us. And people will tell us that we can't do that. And we tend to listen to that, but that is not true. You have to follow what's in your heart, and you have to go for those things that you know that you can achieve, and you need to stay in a groove where you are surrounded by people that will encourage you. And if you can't find someone that will encourage you, you know, you get some audio books that will bring some of that positive influence into your life, and you listen to that, and you dwell on some of that. And, you know, we're talking about goal setting as well. So, you know, I encourage you all to get out your pieces of paper, get out your pencil, and write down a goal for this year that you want to accomplish. The goal setting actually is easy, but if you bring it out from your heart, you write it down, and then you can put steps behind that to give that some life and to achieve that objective. And again, you know, there's a common theme with goal setting, and you'll find this with a lot of the presenters, a lot of the motivational speakers. First of all, you know, you have to define your goal. What do you want to accomplish? And then you just put it out kind of in a step. How can I accomplish this? And then you give it a time frame. And once you establish all of that, you work backwards and you say, all right, what am I going to do today to achieve that? Yeah. And you know, it's not any magic formula necessarily. It's just the first part of it is writing it down. You don't have to have a fancy piece of paper. You can, you know, I encourage people to keep all of their notes and their goals in one place. I mean, and I've heard presenters talk about this. I've been guilty of this myself. I'll write it on napkins. I'll have pieces of paper. I'll have legal notes. I'll have, you know, all kinds of things, and it'll just be a stack. But if you can keep your goals in, like, an iPad is the ideal thing to use for that. Your computer, you can even keep it passworded. Like if you use in Outlook, you can go to your notes. You can keep all that stuff very private. And this is a very private thing. So, you know, if you want to keep that designated so that no one else is looking in on you because you may be embarrassed. Sometimes we write things down that other people would think was outlandish. I want to ride a killer whale.
That's your goal.
That's one of my goals. It's a standing goal.
It doesn't matter whether anybody thinks that's a silly goal or not. That's your goal. And
what a thrill.
Goals have to be personal. They have to be your own goals. They can't be something your mom or your dad or somebody else wants for you. You got to say that.
And you know, you were talking about how did this get started? Well, as a young man, when I could spell fire extinguisher, my mother, she handed me How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And it's a thin book, it's an easy read, but as I read that and as I saw how things developed for Dale Carnegie and for some of the greats of that time, I realized that we too can accomplish things if we put actions to our words. And again, it starts with writing things down. So if you haven't got a piece of paper out yet and you haven't written that down, your goal, you'll just need one just for this year. Write it down. It can be accomplished.
But sometimes people never get past that stage of saying, this is what I want, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I know I can do. But once you do, it becomes a circle of success, and it gives you confidence to go to the next goal and the next goal. And I just think it is absolutely the way that we should bring our children up. And so I certainly commend your mother for doing that. And one of the things that I want us to talk about when we come back after the break is how some of this is impacted on your life.
Sounds good.
And so we're going to take a break right now. We'll be back in just a minute.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.